We're good to go. There we go. So done deal. Cool. So we have a bunch of questions that have come through via email and such. And I think, Danielle, you've got most of those questions. You want to just kind of go and tackle those to begin with, and then we'll tackle some of the questions here across the three rooms. You want to go about, I think that'll work, right? All right, while you're grabbing those, you know what? While you're grabbing those, I'm going to walk them through what we did today and just kind of give them a taste of some of the stuff that'll be coming tomorrow. So some of you may or may not have, if you're in the SO or SF room, you may or may not be familiar with some of the setups that we had going on today. So let me just kind of bring you up to speed on the day. And then Danielle's she's got some questions that everyone's asked. And then I know some of you have questions as well. So we're going to tackle all that good stuff across three awesome rooms here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first thing I'm going to do is,
holy cow, echo.
You have to mute the sound on the other two rooms that you opened.
Did I? I'm going to mute the sound. Okay, I'm like, whoa, it's a lot of Danielle. Oh, here we go. Okay, if anyone else is having like Danielle in stereo, all right. The world is not ready for the two of you. That's for two of you, though. The world is not ready. All right. So basically, what we did today, I'm just giving them a quick look at the breakout. Danielle and I were talking about the clearing this morning, and this was a really interesting post non-farm payroll, quick sell-off on NFP. It was actually an interesting little squeeze that set up, followed through by the hourly price movement range. And if some of this terminology sounds completely foreign to you, no problem. We're going to be talking about it tomorrow. But suffice to say, this was a breakout buy. And that's all she wrote. I just got out on the first red grab candle out. Actually, 3 minute. Yep. Just got out in this red grab candle right there. And what it did. I mean,
yeah, I want to see how you got out of that, because that was a really nice trade.
It was, so this was a 5 minute time frame that, and thank you very much. You've been watching this thing well along with me. So we have the 5 minute breakout buy, which is very cool. The propulsion dots were pretty much lit up all through the afternoons. There's no reason for me to get too aggressive about scaling out. And that's probably one of the most difficult things traders have. When a market is going in the direction, you would think, hey, this is a profitable trade. But I find a lot of traders smother their trade and don't let the market go. It could, and that's definitely something. The second part of our conversation, the very first part of the conversation, Danielle is going to be giving you the building blocks to really build a futures trader from the ground up. If this was $6 million man after he wrecked his little rocket ship, and we're making him better than he was before, better, faster, stronger, that's it. That's the first 2 hours of Danielle. And we're going to be transitioning over a lot of these strategies using the propulsion dots and wave and grab. But yeah, that first red grab candle in the 3 minute, I wanted to be out by the weekend. So that's what I did there. All right, let's see.
Awesome. Very nice. Yeah. Very, very nice. The document that I just posted is a document that I put together of different tutorials for different futures brokerages. So I use Infinity. Raghee uses TradeStation. And you can also use Thinkscript as well. It's pretty easy. It should be pretty easy to just get futures permission. Thinkscript account. You just have to message them or call them or whatever and ask them for futures permissions. The reason why I really like Infinity is because the margin is lower. So you only need like $500 per contract for S&P Mini, NASDAQ Mini, Dow Mini. And with Thinkorswim, it's $5,000 a contract. So me being an options trader as well, and I usually have a pretty full portfolio. It really just helped me to open up that Infinity account, and also you can demo trade for 30 days. So you can paper trade using futures. I did post Patrick's information on that sheet that you can download and contact him directly and get a demo account set up. And he also you can still use your same charting system that you have, or you can use Sierra charts that comes with Infinity, and Patrick can help you get your charts set up just like Raghee's charts. So there's also, and just make sure
we're gonna have that hour, right? We're doing an hour before we start.
Yes. So tomorrow we're going to start an hour early, thanks to someone who emailed me asking to do that. So that was a great idea. So we're going to make sure that everybody gets their charts set up all right, and help you guys with the indicators before the class. So as far as the exact commissions, Raghee, do you have a commission paper for Patrick? Are you there? I'll try to get the commission info for you. Maybe Raghee can speak to that for the different brokerages.
For Patrick, I don't have it, but I'm sure we can get it from Patrick. He's always around. And then for TradeStation, I think it's $1.50 a side, but I'll double check on that one. They just finished lowering their rates. I mean, I'm talking within the last 60 or 90 days, and they've been emailing people out, but it's like $1.50 a side, I believe. And then, of course, their day trading margin is 25% of the initial margin, so it's about $1,000, give or take. And Patrick's is far, far better at $500, but it just depends on what people are looking for in terms of charting and so forth. A little bit of it's personal preference too. Obviously, if you like Sierra charts, great. For depth of market, it's awesome. I'm just used to TradeStation charts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, lots of questions here across the rooms. So I'm trying to get to all of these. Raghee, Danielle, what will we learn in this class that would be different from the most recent day trading futures class? So this futures class is meant to be a breakdown 101 checklist-esque type class. So we're going to go through, a lot of people who have never traded futures before, we're going to make that so that it will fit you guys, so that, the first 2 hours, I'm really going to break down the ins and outs of how you sign up, what is a futures contract, why would we trade this thing, what does it mean, and then the basic patterns that you use to trade that. And then we're also going to go into my favorite setups, and we're going to break down Raghee's setups, so that you're going to have a specific checklist that you're going to know, okay, this is setting up right now, let me get into this one. And it's going to be more 101, but then when we get to that live trading, that's where it's going to be, we're going to be doing all of our setups from market open to market close, and that's going to be more advanced. So we want to make it so that it will fit 101 folks, also that it will fit more advanced folks. And then, of course, my stuff is going to be much more shorter term intraday, and Raghee does both. So we're just trying to make it fit really everyone. Right, Raghee?
Exactly. I think day trading will be part of it, or shorter term time frames. And I think one of the things that I'll definitely be diving into is, what does day trading even mean anymore to a futures trader? Because you think about the 24-hour nature of these markets now, you have so much more access, and even another level of risk control when you have a market that isn't closed for as long as, say, the equities markets are closed. You're usually talking about markets being closed for cumulatively an hour, maybe 90 minutes a day. So to talk about 22, 23-hour open markets is pretty normal on the futures side now. And so day trading takes on a completely different meaning. If something happens in the evening after the Wall Street close, you have access to the market. If something happens early in the morning, 6, 7 a.m. Eastern, and it's before the Wall Street bell rings, you still have access. So it's kind of neat what day trading means, but we will talk about quantifying what risk would mean across a 5-minute time frame versus a daily. But the patterns that I'm going to show, and I know a lot of the patterns that Danielle's going to show, these aren't really just day trading patterns. I'm going to show you how I put on low risk trades on the daily chart of gold recently, or how I used seasonals in heating oil and crude oil and in gas to take relatively low risk trades, but on a daily time frame, and in trades that I've now been in for almost 2 months. So it's not just about, let's lay up a 5-minute chart and day trade it. How do you build a futures trading career across different time frames?
Oh, absolutely. And the part that I love about the patterns is you can use them across different time frames. So if you want to trade 1-minute charts at night, 9 o'clock at night, you can do that. If you want to trade 60-minute chart during the day, you can do that as well. So, the purpose of the class is I'm going to show you how I do it. Raghee's going to show you how she does it. We're going to teach you the patterns so that you know how to recognize that, and then you'll be able to use that on any time frame that you wish. And I mean, like I was showing in the options room today, I was using that same pattern on my BABA after earnings plays with options. So, yeah. Do you want to go through the red? So, Raghee, you're getting some questions about your indicators, the red, the green dots. Will we have permanent access to this training? Absolutely. So, the classes are, after we complete the class, they're going to be chopped up into chapters. We will add quizzing and all that good stuff, and they'll be turned into an e-module, and you will have access to that forever. So, once you buy it, it's yours. No problem with that.
I think one of the questions I've been getting personally is how different is this compared to what I did with John just a couple months ago. So that was a day trading class. That was all about intraday trading. This is not just about day trading, gang. This is really, Danielle, for 2 hours in the first section of the class is really going over things that a lot of new futures traders don't know how to deal with. First notice day, last trading day, the rollover, what to do at certain times of the calendar month, what's happening with open interest volume, leverage. I mean, there's so many things. And then even order entry, a lot of traders are asking me, hey, even the order entry is a sticking point for a lot of folks. So part of it is how do you marry certain types of order entry to certain types of strategies? And that's going to be a big part of when I walk you guys through the setups, really quantifying the risk and reward, alternatives for different types of account size for risk and reward, and then also getting into the price movement ranges. I'll show you the tool that I use specifically for that, how to read what I call the PMRs, or the price movement ranges, how to get that tool for free or very, very low cost, depending on whether or what degree do you want to use it at. And also, again, how do you build a trade from finding the time frame to identifying the setup, whether it be a daily, a weekly, or a 5-minute chart, the risk reward, how to dollar denominate that, and understand if a trade is really affordable. So those are some of the basics that when I was teaching myself how to trade between the ages, really intensively, between literally age 15 to 20, which sounds so funny to even say anymore. But, what were those things that very, very early on in my career that I learned and put to work, that when I look back now, it's hard to believe I'm going to be 47 this year, that made all the difference. Those early years were really, really important, because had I set upon the wrong path there, I'd be somewhere completely different. So what I'm going to give you guys is what Danielle and I are going to give you guys is that foundation. And I think I'm going to brag on you for a second, Danielle, because one of the things that there's no way that I could have done this without the kind of questions that you asked, like, hey, Rog, I don't know that I follow. What's a better sequential order? What's a better checklist? How do you break that down into smaller bite-sized pieces? And that really is, one of the big differences is it's the first time that I'm doing this for futures. And really, it's the first time Danielle and I are doing this. So I think the real benefit is, I don't know that I've ever explained this in quite as bite-sized and a step-by-step way before. And we've never done this with futures. So I think that's the big thing too. And it's not just day trading at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really a big fan of the checklist and the step-by-step. And I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I kind of think in those terms. So, when I'm sitting here learning from all these awesome mentors, it's like I need, I don't know if you guys feel like me, but when you have been doing this like I have for 5 years, you don't have that just automatic intuition that someone like Raghee, who's been doing this for 30 years, and she can do it in her sleep because she's awesome. But what we want is a step-by-step, okay, I need to follow these steps, A plus B equals, whatever, to get the result. So that is what we are working on bringing to you here, so that it can be, followed just like that. Would that be accurate, Raghee?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's definitely a huge part of what I think what you've brought to the table. And then also, there's certain strategies that I haven't used that you have decoded. That's kind of been our sort of code word for this class. Like, how do you decode a lot of these trades so they are followable and rinse and repeat, again and again. A lot of the things that you've done with Neil stuff, decoding it, even for me, you've taught me a lot just in the past few weeks. So I've said, well, how did you put that trade on? And you gave me your checklist. I'm like, oh, that's really awesome. As far as the indicators go, though, gang, they're the same indicators from my tops class. We're going to go over the indicator setups, because what I've done is I've taken those same indicators and I'm using some newer settings. I'm using additional propulsion dots. I'm using them in some ways that we did not use in the tops class. So everything that I do is going to be built on tops, gang. I mean, that's always what you're going to see on my charts. But as I find new ways to simplify and automate, they're going to evolve. So this is just basically the next evolution of what I do with tops. And so if you have the indicators, great. That's one less step to do tomorrow. But the settings are changing a little bit. And that is what we'll cover in that first hour, which is kind of a bonus hour that we're tacking on, which means we're actually starting the class at 11 a.m. Central. Right, Danielle, 11?
Yeah, we're going to start at 11 and work on the indicators, make sure everybody's got all that down, and, and then we'll start the actual class at noon. Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of questions here. I'm trying to... Okay, so just really basic, is it recorded? Yes, it's recorded. The recording will be sent out Saturday night after the class. So if you can't watch it on Saturday, would definitely still get it. So you can watch it before the live trade, which is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. So you would get that recording Saturday night. And then Danielle, are you going to be trading during live trade? Yeah, of course. I mean, if there's a setup, they want to know how many setups we get per day. I mean, normally, and I don't trade every single setup I get. Like this morning, I saw some, the setup that Raghee went through was awesome. I had a ton of options trades on today, and I was focusing on closing my earnings trades, which worked out really well for me. But I also always keep an eye on the futures market. But of course, I don't trade every single setup. However, that being said, today there was like 3 solid setups. Normally in a day, I'll notice between 2, 3, or 4. It just kind of depends on the day. What would you say, Raghee? How many setups would you say would you trade like in a day? It just kind of depends for me how my day is going, and what the markets are doing and all that.
So I think it depends on the time frame. So think of it this way. If you guys are looking at a daily time frame, right? And like, for example, I'm still long heating oil, crude oil, and gas, right? Mm-hmm. But that was a seasonal that started in mid-February and carried through March and lasts till June. So that trade, I'm not going to have a whole bunch of activity in, maybe 1 or 2 entries over the next 3 to 4 months. You think, wow, that's not too active. But it's because it's a daily candle that I get 1 a day of. So how many decisions really are there to be made? But then fast forward to, say, yesterday or the day before, where on an intraday time frame on the S&P alone, I think I had 2 to 3 trades. So every day I will have, unless it's invalid, I will have a clearing range trade. We will typically have some sort of pullback trade into the close. But your frequency of trade, and this is something we'll talk about in the class because it's probably one of the most misunderstood parts of trading. The frequency of your trading really is predicated on the time frame that you focus on. What I want you all to be is time frame and market fluid. Be able to move in and out of different markets, whether that be crude, gold, or the S&P, and be equally as comfortable day trading a 5 or a 1 minute chart as you would be a longer term trend follow on a weekly or a daily. And the reason I can say you can do that is 1, I do it, 2, Danielle does it, and 3, the indicators that I teach you are what they call universal and robust. All that means is they work on anything and they work really well because they're really gauging price action as a function of what kind of psychology is being revealed. And you'll notice that with my color-coded candles, they're super easy to read. It's the closest thing that I've ever had to automating everything that I've been doing sort of in a discretionary way for the better part of 3 decades. And now if I were to literally kind of take everything that I do manually, instead of you guys having to do a manual transmission on this car, it's automatic. It's practically a self-driving car is what it is. And so all you've got to do is assess and observe and then make a decision. You don't have to now have that learning curve of, oh, is this the right line that I drew? And is this really an uptrend? And should I or should I not use this EMA 13 or 21? Is this market rolling over? Is there still momentum? It's all really, those decisions are so much more automated now with these tools. So that's really what I think now for newer traders. And traders are hesitant to trade futures. I saw something about the risk. You are leveraged, and that's something that Danielle is going to address in a lot of detail in terms of the leverage and initial margin and risk and the dreaded margin call, which is really not all that dreaded at all. I've had 3 margin calls in my entire career, gang. So I'm going to talk to you about how to avoid those types of things as best you can. And Patrick is mentioning some of the fees and so forth. And we'll probably have a resource, Danielle, right, that might break down some of the fees and
yeah, absolutely. Going and I'm writing down your guys' questions right now and making sure that the PowerPoint is going to cover all this stuff. I have it almost all done and it's looking awesome, but I want to make sure that everything is covered that everybody wants covered. So I keep the questions coming because I'm making a list.
I'm checking it twice. So yeah,
that's right.
So, during certain times, so for those of you asking, I've heard all these scary things about, I don't want 5,000 bushels of corn in my yard. What if I miss the date and I end up taking delivery? Gang, it doesn't work that way. You always hear about, Uncle so-and-so got pork bellies in his front yard. Doesn't work that way. And then also the unlimited risk. There are certain events that you can, obviously there are going to be these kind of black swan events, but there are events that you can plan for if you know what to look for in the specific currencies, metals, indices, energies. There's certain events that are going to heighten the risk. We help you quantify the risk, and then we also make sure that you know what that would mean to your account if the market were to move by that much. So we can help you quantify that, and in that way we take away some of the risk. It's never eliminated, right? Trading is controlling risk, but we help you hopefully see what's around the corner and not get blindsided by it. And those are some of the basics that, made a difference for me early on. I've never blown an account up because I knew to avoid certain scenarios that were unaffordable to me.
Me neither. Woohoo!
Wow, there you go.
Yeah. So
maybe that should be our tagline for this whole class. Futures freedom. We've never blown an account up.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So people are asking about the different time frames, and that's something that was always so confusing to me as well, about the risk on the different timelines. Basically, like, to say it in kind of a simple manner, depending on the time frame, is going to change what your price target and your stop is going to be, right, Raghee? Is that the simplest way that you could explain that? Because people are saying like, hey, is a 5-minute time frame too short for me?
Hey,
is it too long for me?
Hey, can you speak up a little bit? I'm having trouble hearing
Basically,
you.
I personally like the smaller term time frames because I really like to narrow down my entry. So the way that I use Raghee's stuff is I use an anchor chart on a larger time frame, and then I use a 5-minute chart for my entries. So when I'm using a 5-minute chart, the ranges are smaller, and that enables me to have a smaller stop loss area.
It's in the regular futures room or the regular options room.
That's what I like, and I can see some of you guys were saying that you're scared to get into futures. Well, the options trades that I do,
on Chrome
in my options account, I'll generally risk like $600-700 on those. And I'll go down to even $200. And on my futures trades, the most I'm risking is going to be the very, very most is like 6 or 8 points.
Join the webinar.
You know, I have been starting to do some of those larger time frame ones that Raghee's teaching me because they're awesome. But I started off with the lower time frames just to get a smaller reward and a smaller risk. Raghee, do you have a guy talking there in the background? Somebody's saying they can hear a man talking.
Yeah, I can too. Someone's mic is live. Hey, HQ, kill your mic. Yeah, someone's mic is live. I don't know where that is. I'm trying to figure that out myself.
Whichever, yeah, wherever you have, options or futures, that's where you need to be.
Yeah, hang on. This is kind of weird. I don't know where that is.
No,
Good, I know who it is. Hang on, I'm gonna reach out to Darrell because Darrell can do all this stuff.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
Yeah.
Hang on.
It's just in the regular trade. It's in the regular trading room.
Yeah. So if you guys want to contact Patrick, make sure you contact him directly. His contact information is in that link that I posted.
Yeah.
It's funny, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
That's kind of funny. All right, we'll figure out who it is.
Danielle, as a Canadian. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Go ahead.
Raghee, do you have a solution for a Canadian that cannot trade futures and toss?
As far as, so this, Claude, this is your question. This is where I will tell you, we have 2 or 3 people that from the brokerage side of things, we'll put some resources together because Danielle nor I are brokers. Exactly. And that's where I think we will probably defer to, I'm guessing, Patrick. I've got to contact the trade station. We'll get some alternatives for you. And one thing I want to mention, this is going to be a very resource class on tomorrow as far as building, again, the basics and getting into the patterns. But some of those, I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you, but we do know people who can. So we will make sure we get the answer for you guys. And I imagine we could put some of that stuff in the resources. We had someone ask the same thing about, I think it was Australia. So we will have something for you guys to tackle those questions. I don't know the answer.
Right. How many setups will we be teaching? So here's the thing. So we're going to teach 3 solid patterns that you can use on any time frame, any ticker, the S&Ps, gold, crude, whatever it is. And within that, we also have a wide variety of different intraday setups that we do. So we're going to teach you the main patterns in the actual strategy course. And then during our live trading, we're going to go through every single trade from market open to market close. So, my favorite trades at the open are going to be the opening tick gap fade trade, the 5-minute range breach, 15-minute range breach, 30-minute clearing range. We go into the lunchtime hour where we do 12:30 bid, and then Raghee's going to go into the close, and Raghee's going to do her typical closing trades. So during that strategy portion, we are going to focus on the 3 patterns and teaching you everything about the hours of day that are important and what's important when trading different contracts and how you read the chart. And then in live trading is where we're going to really dive into all of these different setups. So does that make sense?
I think it does. All right. Yeah, so as far as some of the margin requirement questions as well, gang, when I give you guys when we start getting into the patterns, I'll get into margin requirements, initial margin, dollar amounts. I mean, we'll build the trade up from the ground up. So, when you're asking about some of the multiple time frame questions that I saw go by, I'm a multiple time frame scanner, and I'll show you how we do that, how you can decide whether or not this trade is appropriate for a 5 versus a daily. Even I'll even, we won't get a lot into it, but I'll even explain when I would consider an option for a particular setup versus getting into the underlying futures contract, because that's also part of the risk management. The patterns are going to work whether I want to buy gold or whether I want to put a straddle on in gold or buy calls, so there are some nuances to that. I mean, that's going to be a little bit more advanced for some of you, but that's another thing to think about. If you're an options trader, there are futures on options. So if you know the patterns, then you can also deploy a different kind of strategy as opposed to just buying the underlying futures contract. So there's a lot of places to grow from here. And that's what's so important about the foundation that we're going to build. Because once you've got that foundation, you can just continue to grow in every which direction, whether that be day trading, whether that be hedging, whether that be looking at options or just playing the futures. You'll have the ability to do that. So thanks for the question. And I'm scrolling too. Is there all yours, Danielle?
Yeah, so there's a couple other questions over here. Patrick, so there's no charge for the Infinity demo account, right? I just want to make sure that's accurate before I tell everyone that. But I have a question here. Are there any other initial ongoing costs to set up paper trading until we start with real money? So I'm going to wait until I get an answer for Patrick on that one, because I'm pretty sure there's not. Are there additional fees from Infinity to use their Sierra charts? I think there was a slight fee, but it wasn't anything substantial. Let me try to get that information from Patrick. And I did just post that contact info for him again in that sheet. Is there a discount for simpler members? Yes, there is a class discount for simpler members, right, Raghee? So
simpler gold, yeah. If you're a gold
simpler
member,
gold and simpler futures
there
members,
is a different, yes, there is a different cost. There was a question about some of Neil's strategies. So again, on Saturday, we're going to go through the patterns. Obviously, the markets are closed. We're going to go through the foundational futures concepts that are going to build you up as what I feel is a trader who can trade futures for the long run. And then when we get to the live trading on Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when, like, I don't know, girl, our hair is going to come down. That's when we can start to really show you guys in a live market, the clearing, what it looks like, what it feels like, what the pre-market does. So some people ask me about Neil's strategies. Yeah, I mean, Neil will then be also joining Danielle and I. And if you want to know point of control, who's asking about initial balance or something like that, and then some of Neil's strategies, which are much more short term in some cases. Yeah, you guys will get to then see Neil at work. But the great thing is, by the time you get to Tuesday, Wednesday, if you were a brand new, know nothing about futures other than just how to spell futures, you can go, oh, now I get it. I get the contract he's trading. I understand the risk. I understand the price movement ranges. And I get the, order entry that I have to be able to deploy to put that particular strategy on. So when you're getting to the live trading, now you can take everything that we taught you on Saturday and boom, it's going to be available to you when we start getting into the more fast-paced live trading. We are going to send out alerts. I will send out the alerts for the clearing range, the checklist for them. So you'll have a really good learning experience as well as a live trading experience.
Awesome. So it looks like Patrick said that he's going to put a cost sheet together to include in the resources. So I thank you so much, Patrick. I will add that to the resource file after I get that from Patrick. And somebody wants to know, can I join the gold class later today? So the link for the class, I'll go ahead and grab you the link for the class. If you're not a member, you can sign up for a member to then get the member pricing.
Hey, Danielle, while you're doing that, are you using, I was going to ask you, are you using the Sierra or are you going to use TOS for the live trading?
So I am going to be using, I do have my Sierra chart set up in your exact,
okay.
Your exact
somebody was
way.
Asking. Yeah.
Yes, in your exact way, but
cool.
Most likely I am going to be using Infinity to trade and TOS to chart just because I am a little bit more familiar with it. But the Sierra charting does allow Raghee's indicators and it can all be set up just the same. And I'm going to go ahead and post the link to the class here. Some people were asking... Some people were asking for you to go through your charts for this trade today. Where was your setup today? You want to show them where your setups were, and I can show on that chart where my setups were. So
sure, I think my charts are shared. So
they're shared.
Cool. And as far as execution goes, gang, just a quick heads up. To use charts on one platform and say use the depth of market for order entry on Sierra, that's just kind of the way it is anymore. A lot of times, like Danielle's just visually used to, the TOS charts. I don't particularly like them. I use the TradeStation chart. So it's cool because we're going to show you guys a lot of different looks. I mean, you could take a look at what TOS looks like, TradeStation. I'll throw TradingView up. We can throw Sierra up. But at the end of the day, that's not going to be the difference maker. I really want you guys looking at what you're comfortable looking at, because all the indicators work across all 4 of those platforms. So it's really a matter of comfort. So as far as the setup goes, this was just one of the intraday trades that I made. And this is the same one that I think we talking about a number of times in the emails that you guys have been getting. This is the not so world famous, but it should be, clearing range trade, where we look at the first 30 minutes of the day, make a few assessments that I'm going to teach you how to do. I'll give you the checklist on it, but it's a breakout. And when the market basically broke out through 26.28 and a quarter, and this is just on the S&P, it happened on the Dow too, this was a breakout buy. And that was really it. The trade, any of my trades that I'm going to teach you guys are what I call come to me trades. The market has to come to me. A certain price has to be triggered, and there's a certain freedom in that, because either you're not watching for necessarily the market to do anything but cross through a threshold or come down to support or resistance. So you can use a lot of conditional orders, and I'm a big fan of conditional orders. So in this case, you use something like a buy stop, get the breakout. It's a momentum play, and 28 and a quarter was it. That was the trade. So I hope that answers the question. And I got out into the close. I did not want to take this trade into the weekend.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, if you just want to, I can just walk you through. Raghee's the one sharing the screens, but I can just walk her through like the main setups for me today.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, first, if you see, it's a little hard. I don't have my drawing tools here, guys, so bear with me. But you see that low that the market made this morning, right at the low of the Darvis box at that purple. Yeah, right there.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so first thing this morning, this is what I see in the markets, and this is what I'm going to go through when I'm doing the live trading. Markets opened up. We gapped down, so I was looking for price to trade higher. We gapped down. We had significant selling right at the open. That's what I call the opening tick gap fade trade, which is something that Neil taught me. So, I mean, that's a long off of the low of the Darvis box right at the open. So one more Darvis box lower down there. Yeah, that one right there. So that was initially a long, looking for about 5 points or so to from the ticks, because the ticks opened so negative, they were about negative 900, looking for that to get long and then trade back to about the 0 line. So that was the first trade at the open, and that's also the switch pattern that we're going to go over. From that point, you had a switch, because overnight it was kind of choppy. It was trading in a range, and then once you hit the low of that Darvis box, you got some blue candles and you got some green. So it switched when the breakout buy happened. So once we got the 30-minute clearing range, from that point, I had a bullish bias on the day. So that was one trade, depending on where you enter, exit, 5, 6, 7 points, depending on where you got that. The second trade is the breakout buy today. So that breakout buy at 26.28, that was the clearing range trade. From there, at that point, I did not have another setup until you see those yellow Darvis boxes populate on the 5-minute chart. So what I like to do is I like to use that 5-minute chart on an intraday basis, and I like to find the trend. So as you can see very clearly with these grab candles, with the propulsion dots, and we're going to teach you how to identify this, that the market is clearly trending higher. So at that point, just waiting for Darvis boxes to populate, and I like to get pullbacks because I like to have an edge. So once those Darvis boxes populate and you get a pullback into the Darvis box, that is an opportunity to jump on that trend. So we got 1, 2, 3 more of those. So all in all, by 2:30, there were 4 setups there today. After 2:30, I personally don't like to mess with a 2:30 tick trade or anything like that. So after that, I'm done. And Raghee is a master at doing that. But I like to do the open, the breakout. I love the lunchtime range. So those are the trades that we're going to go through in the live trading. As far as if I use limit orders or buy stops, so yes, I like to be very conservative. So I like to place my limit orders at the low or the highs of the Darvis box range. so that I can you circle a Darvis box, Raghee? You see those yellow boxes and the purple ones? So those are Darvis boxes. So when I get a setup, I like to enter right by the low with my stop below that low. Or, you know, if you want to do a little bit more, if you want to give it a little bit more room, you can put your stop below the wave. But, you know, if you put that limit order right at support, then you're limiting your risk, because that's where you can see that the market's holding on support. So I like to put limit orders on those trades. However, the breakout buy trades, those are going to be buy stop or sell stop orders.
Cool.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the level of control you get with conditional orders, where you really are demanding the market meet a certain criteria, I think is really also part, as Danielle said, we're waiting for an edge. And you know what you also hear in that is she's getting a better risk reward ratio out of that. And I'm the same way. You know, momentum trades are valid sometimes, but if I can get a pullback entry, I'm immediately reducing my risk and increasing my reward. There's the chance you missed a fill, but there's a cost you pay. You know, you will pay for you know, wanting lower risk. But we'll teach you when certain times momentum trades are the right way to go, and under what criteria, and then when it's best to play the pullback. I mean, there is a certain amount of, you know, preference, but there sometimes is certain times where momentum is going to be the better way to go. Very specific criteria, and you don't have to guess at it, because the Darvis and the propulsion and the wave and grab will give you a good heads up. Because for every time that Danielle waited for an edge for the market to pull back to, say, the support, you know, there was an opportunity to play the momentum too, but the better risk reward was down at, as she said, the edge. So just giving you guys multiple looks. Once you know how to read these things, you're going to have a whole lot more choice as to how to play the trades.
Yeah, and I mean, people are asking about the stops on those trades. So the different trades that I do are going to have different stops based on the setup. So the opening tick gap fade trade, this one really is more, your stop is going to be the ticks. So you have to read the ticks, and you enter when the ticks are very negative. And if they continue negative, and for example, you know, if the market opens up and it's selling off and it just continues selling off, which is something that the internals are going to tell us, that is more of a stop versus an actual point. Typically on that trade, the most heat I'll take on it is 4 or 5 points before it's pretty obvious that it's not going to work out, or it is going to work out. So opening tick gap fade, probably 4 or 5 points. Now the breakout buy, that one has a larger risk because it has a 30-minute range. So that risk is going to be the range of the 30 minutes. However, the trend following plays that I like to do, I mean, depending on your entry there, it all depends on your entry. Because you can either decide to have a tighter stop right underneath the Darvis box. I do think it's better to have it further into the wave. So if you give yourself a little bit more room, say 5 points or so, then you're going to be able to stay in more trades. But with that 5-minute setup on the Darvis box, try to do about 4 or 5 points for a stop on that. And then it just kind of depends. Like the ones today were pretty, what do you call those, Raghee? That tight range in the Darvis box. It kind of depends the price movement ranges and what you can get out of that. So that's part of what Raghee is going to explain in detail about how to quantify those price movement ranges to pick out your targets.
Yeah, and a couple of questions about stop losses and trailing or fixed. You know, in the very beginning stages of a trade, I will use those price movement ranges, which I'll go through in a lot of detail tomorrow, to show you how to choose what is the appropriate amount of space without smothering the trade that you should ideally put in. But then on the flip side, there is a point at which you will start to trail a stop. So, for example, kind of going back to trade and even many of Danielle's buys throughout today, at some point, once I reach a certain amount of points and a certain distance from my entry, I can transition into a trailing stop. And one of the sort of superpowers that you get when you learn how to manage daily and hourly price movement ranges is you learn not to smother trades. You learn that every trade has a very natural, very repeating amount of ebb and flow in the point movement. And then once you understand that, you're much more tactical about where that trailing stop should be, and you don't chase it in too tight only to get wicked out and see the market move on without you. So that's a matter of, again, price movement ranges and the timing of when I'll transition from, say, a break even to a trailing stop is going to be a lot. It's going to have a lot to do with the PMRs, and that's individual. Like there's a PMR for the NASDAQ, there's a PMR for the S&P, there's a price movement range, there's a price movement range for the Dow, etc. And those Darvis levels that Danielle was pointing out, they are in two colors. A couple people were asking, what's the difference between the purple and yellow? Really, technically nothing. They're still both support and resistance, but one is based upon a new low starting the Darvis 2.0 count, because this isn't really traditional Darvis box. We've taken Darvis and sort of we've evolved it into something, I'll say in all due respect to Nicholas Darvis, who created these, it's something better, hence homage to Darvis, but Darvis 2.0 is what we call it. And the purple boxes start the count based upon a new low, while the yellow boxes start the count based upon a new high. So you can kind of consider purple boxes sort of bearish boxes, if you will, and yellow boxes kind of bullish. But really, don't make too much of it. It's just really the best automated support and resistance that I've ever used. And I used to do this manually for many years, and now it's completely automated across any time frame and any market.
Awesome, Raghee. And we have a couple different questions about, hey, I'm in Europe, or I'm in Australia, or I work during the day. What is the best market for me to trade at night? So out of our futures markets, yes, they're trading at night. But how can we tell people to focus for those folks who are trading in different time zones or people who are working throughout the day?
Sure, great question. So first of all, number one is you might want to ask yourself, when do you have availability to trade, right? So the first few years of my trading life, I used to get through my charts in about 45 minutes because all I did was look at end-of-day charts. So it doesn't take much to look at a dozen or 2 dozen daily time frame end-of-day charts. And then I'm done. I'll park my orders and I'll just wait for the next candle to plot. So if you don't have a lot of time, longer term daily 480s, 240s might be better. You slow the market down when you don't have that access. If you have a couple hours that you can day trade either during the European, UK, or Asian sessions, great. The big difference is it's perfectly doable. But the mistake that I found that traders do in any 24-hour market, whether it be futures or Forex, is they don't adjust for the difference in the price movement range. And that's something that I will show you guys how to do. And PMRs are not the same thing as average true range. Now, I know a lot of people ask me, they're cousins, and dare I even say PMR is the slightly more awesome cousin. The price movement range is really a 6-month look back and a repetitive rhythm of the market. And average true range is good too. It's just really two different things. So the big difference is if you're trading different sessions, if you will, there's a different price movement range that accompanies those hours of the day. If you've got that, then you've got the edge. And that's where I think for most people, the patterns won't be different, but the price movement expectations will be.
Awesome. That is a great answer. Yeah, and we're going to go over the different time frames you need to be aware of, like European market open and close, European open and close, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes my cat wakes me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And at first I used to want to kill him. But, if anyone, you're cat people, that's kind of a normal thing. And then you kind of love your cat anyways. But then I started trading since I was up. And I really should thank my cat because what I found is kind of the question too. I don't live in the US, or I have unusual access hours to the market. There are so many viable trading hours. It isn't just about trading between 9:30 and 4 p.m. Eastern. There are a lot of interesting hours in the day. In fact, one of my favorite trades is what I call the pre-market trade. That's the cat hour, right? The cat wakes you up at 4 or 6 in the morning, or earlier than you want to be up, and then you go take a look at the markets and go, oh, okay, the price movement for this market right now is say 5 to 7, when it might be 8 to 16 later on. And so when you know those differences, you place your entries and your profit targets better. And that's what makes those trades work. All right, what other questions do we have? Is the price movement rate, it's a standalone indicator, P. It's a different tool that I use. It's I'll show you guys how to get it on Saturday. It is not an indicator that lays over the chart. You probably don't even need it to lay over the chart, but I'll show you how to do the number crunching. It's just a matter of doing some quick arithmetic. It really is just literally third grade arithmetic. I don't know. Danielle, you've got a kid. When do they learn like arithmetic now? Preschool? They're like doing trigonometry in third grade now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Leo's 4.5, and he's learning how to tell time now, and basic addition.
He could trade. He's ready. That's all you need to know.
Oh,
so a 4.5-year-old can do it.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, he's always talking about his trading webinars that he's gonna do. He always pretends that he's doing a webinar.
I like it.
Yeah, so we have a couple other questions here. They want to know how you get the PMRs.
I'll show you tomorrow.
I see the big yellow circle at the right. I see the big yellow circle at the breakout, but I do not see it on Raghee charts that I installed on TOS. That's because Raghee circled it on her charts for the explanation. I can only trade during the new hour. Is it worth me taking the class? So one of my favorite hours to trade is actually the lunchtime hour. So between Central Time, between about 12 and 1:30 Central, I love trading the lunchtime bid hour. So, when I used to live in Seattle, I actually only traded the futures open, and then I started after a while doing the lunchtime hour, and now I do both. But it just kind of depends. I mean, that's why I really like futures, is because you can just jump in and put on a trade for an hour and then be done with your day. I mean, Raghee, when were you done with your trading day today after you had that awesome bid? So,
oh gosh, I mean,
that's why I like it. Whereas my options trades, it's like I have to manage them most of the day, and with futures, I just kind of like get in and get out. And
one of the questions we're getting is, what market should someone start in, or should they specialize in a certain market? I do not recommend specializing in a certain market or even a certain time frame, because inevitably what's going to happen is, if you only have the choice to look at that time frame or even one market, you're going to force trades because you've got nothing else to do. So what we're going to really focus on are the most intertwined markets. I think the ones that are most easily grouped together, and that's going to be metals, indices, currencies, and energies. Now, there are a whole other segment of commodity futures, and that's your soft foods, your ags, right? Your meats, your grains, etc. And so those have different nuances, although the patterns will work on anything. But the metals, indices, currencies, energies are probably the most day trading friendly. They tend to have a certain relationship. I won't say correlation, although we will talk a little bit about correlations tomorrow, but they do have a better relationship with each other. It's easy to talk about gold and the dollar, the Dow, more so than it is corn and cocoa. Right? So I think it makes a lot of sense to focus on indices, currencies, energies, and metals. And then you can throw treasuries in there too. Absolutely. DWT is asking about treasuries. I call them mice T markets: metals, indices, currencies, energies, and treasuries. But treasuries can be tricky right now, especially with all this talk about the 3% yield. But the patterns work on anything. They absolutely do. So that's one thing. And then the same thing goes for time frames. I don't want anybody. I just want to come in being a day trader. Learn all of it. Learn nimble and fluent across multiple frames, because the whole idea is to keep your pipeline of potential opportunities full. Before I put that 5-minute breakout buy on the clearing, I had on-farm payroll 60-minute short on that I had in before non-farm payroll. I typically never do that. But I had a momentum short on where I was looking on the 1 hour chart and an hourly price movement range follow through. So before I even put the clearing range buy on, I'd taken a nice, what was it, about 8 or 9.5 points out of the S&P, and then just kind of hit the reset button and said, okay, these are two separate times, two separate entries. Let's do the next setup that's coming up. So, that was the trade that preceded this one. One was a 60-minute time frame, one was a 5. If I wasn't fluent being able to move from time frame to time frame, never would have seen it, never would have done it. And what if the market continued to move lower like it did yesterday to the 2,600 level, right? And I didn't, think about taking that trade. So having that ability to look at multiple time frames and understand what's best for, one, your risk tolerance, and two, what's going to set up a good, clean trade. That's a big part of what we'll teach when we teach you how to scan across different markets and timeframes.
What's a normal margin requirement for day trading the ES? So in Thinkorswim, it's about $5,000. In Infinity Futures, it's $500 because they are a futures designated brokerage and they're able to do that. And Raghee, you know what it is in TradeStation,
right? Yeah, it's about $1,000 on TradeStation.
And then Danielle, if you're totally new to futures, do you think I could set up an account Monday and be ready to trade live Tuesday? Maybe. I would try to set it up today. If you wanted to just do the paper trade, you might be able to get that set up in time. I don't know that you would be able to get an account funded in time, but you can certainly contact our futures rep, and he will let you know, because that's him. So we start tomorrow at 11 o'clock Central with the indicator information. We're gonna start at 11 and we're gonna walk through the indicators, but the actual class is gonna start at noon Central.
So 1 Eastern.
Do I know what the margin is for Tasties? No. Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to go over the basics of indices, metals, energy, and all that. Primarily what I trade is I trade the index futures, NASDAQ, Dow, S&P. So that is my focus. Raghee does everything. But the patterns that we teach will be applicable across any chart, like any of those charts. So it's really up to the individual trader to say, okay, all right, now I know this pattern. What do I want to trade? Do I want to trade the index futures? And the only way you're going to figure it out is by doing it. So you just got to look at, and we're going to go through all of this tomorrow. We're going to say, okay, this is how much a tick is worth in this product. This is how much this product typically moves in an hour. Is that something that you can handle in your account? What should you stick with? Stuff like that. So we're going to go over all of those things. For me, primarily, I just got into the index futures, and I'm working on getting into trading, a larger variety of futures contracts. At this moment in time, I love trading the S&P every day. For me, it's like, hey, I want to nail that. I love, I want to get into some other mini contracts, like mini gold, mini crude, stuff like that, and that is part of what I'm working on Raghee with. So.
One thing to think about, Danielle mentioned she likes S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow, those kind of futures, is think about, like she trades a lot of stocks, right, and stock options. And one of the things that I talked about today alone was when the S&P, the Dow, or the NASDAQ take off, and we'll talk about this tomorrow, is there's a certain tide and boats relationship between the larger index futures and heavily weighted names within the index, and any name that's actually within the index. So think about what happens when the S&P takes off. It's a high tide. A high tide, generally speaking, lifts all boats. So if you're an equities player and you understand when the S&P might be breaking out or when the S&P might be rolling over, all of a sudden you have an edge over other stock traders who don't know that the tide might be going out or the tide might be coming in. So even if you don't really necessarily in the beginning are ready to trade futures, but you're already an active stock or options trader, this is a fantastic edge to be able to understand the risk environment in a way that is going to affect hundreds of stocks, right? Your Dow stocks, your NAS stocks, and your S&P. Not to mention, say, Russell. I'm not a big Russell trader, but a lot of traders like to see what's going on with the TF contract or the IWM. that is absolutely something that I think you get a unique perspective of as a futures trader. Individual stocks are not traded on the futures markets in the U.S. I mean, there's a contracts for difference abroad, but no, not in the U.S. You cannot do that. In terms of the strategy class, the bonus of the indicator setup, again, all of it will be recorded. And yes, that new 1 hour walkthrough of the indicators and the setups and my custom settings that we're going to be doing before we start Danielle's futures foundation session is included. It will be recorded. So if you can't join us, you need to review it before the live trading. You will have 2 whole days to do it. So yes, absolutely. It will be recorded, and that bonus will be available to those of you that sign up today. All right, what other questions do we have here? As far as trades today, somebody asked that earlier. Yeah, this 5-minute trade that we were showing you all, I did the same thing on NASDAQ. I did the same thing on the Dow. This was just a trade that I did today. Absolutely. And what's even cooler is this wasn't just a trade I did today. This was something that we did in the live trading. So this is something you guys will get a taste of next Tuesday and Wednesday. So once you understand the basics of futures, and yes, somebody asked about tick values and point values, and absolutely, we'll talk about that as well and explain not only what they are, because that's just something you can look up, right? That's easy. We're going to take the next step and say, look, how much does this particular contract have the ability to move on a Monday at 10 o'clock on 10 o'clock in the morning versus 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Like, we're going to take the tick value and another layer to it, which is what the expected movement can be with a 68% probability. So for sure, we'll be talking about both those, because that made a huge difference early on in my trading career.
Yeah, and Raghee, would you want to go too? Because there's a bunch of folks in the member webinar room that aren't members, and they want to know about the membership sign up, and then what we do in the membership.
Okay, so if you want to, so are we directing everyone to customer service for that, or can they just go to simplertrading.com and sign up there? I'm not really sure.
Yes, I posted just an informational about our memberships, but if you just want to talk about what we do in the trading room, Raghee is primary futures trader in the trading room. I'm one of the primary options traders in the options room. So the class is a standalone class. You know, you pay for the class, you get the class, and you get the strategies. The trading rooms are going to be where we're doing our strategies live every day. So as far as what happens in the chat room, is that what the question is? Yeah.
So I put the schedule right there in the middle of the screen. So just to give you an idea, David and Neil and myself, we do the future side of things. So we have a schedule that we keep there. You can see it right there. We start at 7 Central, 8 Eastern every morning and go to the close, sometimes a little bit beyond the close. Every Wednesday after the close, we have a breaking the trades down session. So I can take a handful of trades and then walk you guys through, the setup and the management, etc. There'll be, typically live trades or ones that we did recently. So there's a great place for new members to get more acclimated with our setups. But that's what we do in the futures room. We just, trade futures all day. but David and Neil and I, we do so with a level of transparency. So we're not just calling prices out. You guys see what we're seeing. For me, I'll point out different nuances about my indicators to grab the wave, propulsion, Darvis. David might talk about Elliott wave. We have a fantastic, one of my favorite Elliotticians like on the planet. David's fantastic at doing that. He's also the creator of the voodoo lines. So we have someone who will do Elliott wave analysis in the room, and Neil is just a world-class momentum trade and scalper. And some of the tactics that Danielle is going to share are things that she's learned and really perfected, I think. I mean, she's taught me a lot about Neil's trading, which was something that those really short-term type and even time-based, one of the things I love about Neil's trading, like she said, someone asked about the noon trade. That's one of your favorites, isn't it, Danielle? The 12:30
I love
trade?
the 12:30. I love the 12:30 trade. And what I have done with it is that I have combined it with your stuff. So Neil has a certain way that he does the 12:30 trade, but I love to take that 12:30 bid time frame and then combine that with your setup. If you can see it right on your charts. Look, point at the Darvis box right at 12:30.
I'm gonna
see
grab that right now.
You look at the time 12:30 time frame.
Oh, 1:30.
That is like,
1:30. Yeah, 1:30. That's actually, I did the wrong 12:30. It's 12:30 Central, so it's 1:30 Eastern. Let's try that again. Bam!
Yeah, but look at that. Bam! I love trading in the lunchtime bid. So I mean, pull back, Darvis box, 12:30. I am on that.
Yes. All right, let's see. Do we show
Gratitude,
trades
Java.
and regular futures? Gratitude. I know. I love that. I love the text, the fonts that he has. Let's see. Do I show my trades in the regular futures room like they do in the futures gold? So DS, it depends on if it's a day trade or not. Like sometimes Neil might be in a scalp that he's looking for 2 or 3 points. It's tough to kind of alert people to a trade that might be good for the next 7 minutes, right? Or 3 minutes or whatever. If the clearing range is setting up in such a way that there's some time for the setup, yeah, I mean, we try to send the alerts out, but some of it is day trading. But if I'm doing longer term setups, like for example, whether it be currencies or the futures, yeah, if they're longer term time frames and have a little bit of what I call shelf life, yes. I mean, that ends up on a spreadsheet in the members area, and it is an alert as well. But some of the day trading, it's sometimes unrealistic to say, to put out a trade at the speed at which these things happen, but we always do try. But then again, that's one of the perks of actually being in the chat room. You're trading live along with us.
Will we be outlining best trading times and times to avoid in the class? Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, trading times. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Favorite anchor charts. Just continuing to make notes so I can finish up my presentation here.
Cool. So, this is actually a really good combination of the things that I did early on and then things that Danielle has been, finding that you guys are struggling with, because like she said, she's a teacher, right? And then she's a teacher who actually is now trading. And who's not like seeing Danielle on Facebook? She's practically a social media celebrity at this point. Am I embarrassing you?
Oh
you are. You're practically a social media celebrity at this point. Yeah, I'm still. Well, I mean, Leo might be more famous than you at this point. So.
That is true. He loves the attention.
Oh my God. All right, what is an anchor chart? We're going to be explaining that tomorrow, but those are specific time frames, 3 specific time frames that I feel have to be in alignment for me to see that the psychology is really on my side. We'll be going through all that tomorrow. And actually, I'll give them to you right now. I look at the daily, the 60, and the 5, but I'm looking for very specific things to happen on those 3 to better have what I call a bias or a directional bias for the day. A few more questions here. Wind down. Any of them? Let's see.
If you can't see, so you have to go to the actual link if you want to look at the page for the class. You have to take that link and then paste it into your browser so you can see the full page. So that page, if you scroll down, Raghee can scroll down on it and she can show you everything we're going to cover in the class. Yeah, so right there. But if you put that link into your browser, then you'll be able to open up that page. Do you ever use tick charts? Yeah, I like tick charts for fast entries.
And the indicators work on tick charts. And for those of you asking, are the indicators included? Yes, the indicators are included. So in the bonus session that we're doing tomorrow, an hour before the official strategy class begins, so it starts at 12 Central, but at 11 Central, we're going to do a 60-minute indicator setup session. It's a bonus session. Those of you that sign up, I can't even draw with this thing, but at 11 o'clock, we're going to start that, and the indicators are included. I'll show you where to get them. It's going to take you very little time, but let me mention, they're available for TradingView. They're available for Thinkorswim. They're available for TradeStation, and Sierra. So those 4. Now, a few folks have asked about Ninja. I think we have a couple of the indicators available for Ninja, but I really don't know if it is. I do believe Ready, Aim, Fire is available on Sierra, but all the indicators that I'll be showing you all tomorrow will be available on those 4 platforms: Sierra, TradeStation, Thinkorswim, and TradingView. All right. And by the way, for those of you thinking, oh my gosh, I got to install indicators. Well, let me mention on TradeStation, it's in the App Store, and the platform actually installs it for you. So it's an automated install. On Thinkorswim, if you know how to cut and paste, you'll be able to open up my indicators. Literally, if you know how to cut and paste on Thinkorswim, we're going to open up a shared chart. On Sierra, it couldn't be any easier. Patrick can push that chart book out to you. And on TradingView, if you can double click and search for a certain, it's just that easy. When we put these indicators together, we try to put them together in such a way where the installation is practically point and click or a matter of cut and paste. I mean, that simple. So I feel pretty confident that most of you who are feeling like, oh my gosh, I got to install indicators, I don't know if it could be any easier than what we're going to walk you through. So I guess you have to trust me on that. Listen to me now, believe me later. I got your back. We will get these things set up, and then I'll show you how to customize them, and then we can get on with the class. All right, so Rick says, will the guys be forced to chat girls rule? No, but we will be singing Beyonce, Who Run the World, on loop.
So
all right, guys. I think we'll wrap it up here. Yeah, I think we got through most of these questions. So if you head on over to simplertrading.com/futures -freedom and I think Danielle's pushed that through a few times here. You can sign up for the class. If you want to sign up for the trial and get the member discount, if you go to simplertrading.com, you can do that, or just call customer support. What's that customer support number? Okay, grab that.
512, yeah, and put their email up there too.
Yeah,
512-266-8659, and then support@simplertrading.com. And do not worry if you guys can't be there. If you do want to buy the class but you can't be there on Saturday, I highly recommend getting it now for 2 reasons. Number 1, the recording does go out right after the class is over on Saturday. So you will have plenty of time to review that Sunday, Monday before the live trading. And then secondly, after the class is completed, they do raise the prices. So if you wait until the full class is done, then the price will be higher than it is now. So right now there's member pricing and then regular pricing, but after the whole class is done, that will go up. So, you will get emailed the recording, the homework, all the stuff. Our slides will be in there after we finish them, of course. We're working really hard on that right now. So you will get all of that on Saturday.
All those resources will be included because we love you.
Does the
no, you don't have to be a girl to attend the chat or the class tomorrow. Yes, no. Java says, I'll see you tomorrow at the Female Futures Freedom. No, guys are welcome. No, absolutely. Oh, Java, you're hilarious. We look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. It will absolutely be.
I'm so excited. It's going to be so fun.
I know. We are just giddy about this. Just, again, futures are such an intimidating thing. Part of what we'll also be talking about is just demystifying something about what seems to be just a lot of misinformation and confusion about futures. Futures are the grocery store to the world. I mean, I don't know that there's a more tangible market out there. But a lot of this, we're just going to really simplify. I mean, no one's better at that than Danielle. Nobody.
Thank you.
Yeah. But now you better do a good job. Just saying.
Don't worry. We got this.
We got this. All right, gang. We're getting a little punchy now. So you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Feel free to, contact support if you have any further questions. We gave you the links a couple times, so you should absolutely have those links. If you really, really need to message us, you definitely can. We're going to be working hard on this. So we're going to be working hard on it tonight, and we'll be back here first thing tomorrow. So,
all right.
Right, Michael?
So
yeah. Sorry, go on.
So we'll see y'all at 11. Bring your platforms. We'll walk you through the indicator setup, all the customization, and then after that, we'll try to give you a quick break, and then Danielle's going to go about building the new futures trading you. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So
do you want to answer one more time how it's different? I got another question somebody really wants you to answer. One more time how this class is different than the last one that you taught.
I loved Danielle's answer when someone asked her that during the webinar we did last week, and she said, well, me, meaning her. But, that's not altogether wrong, because, again, if I were to try to go back to what I did my first 3, 4, 5, 6 years of building myself as a futures trader, I don't have, again, it's almost like reverse engineering, decoding what it is that kind of brought me to where I sit now. But I think also what's so different is we're really tackling the one-on-one, hands-on, right? This is not kind of self-directed. This is going to be 2 hours of building from the ground up, order entry, orders, risk. And I've looked at what a lot of the slides that Danielle's already put together. So it's really building you guys up to understand the futures markets inside out. Not everything, not a kitchen sink approach, but those things that have made the biggest difference for Danielle and I in our futures trading. So I think the first thing is this is a 101 class, but this is not necessarily just for beginners. I think it's for anybody who's looking to build or rebuild themselves as a successful, effective, confident futures trader. And then we'll move on to those tried and true patterns. And then once we move on to the live trading, you put it all together. And that's really what I think it is. It's not just about day trading. It's not just about end of day trading. It's about the patterns that have worked on any time frame, but really first and foremost addressing that there is a foundation that every good futures trader, I think, can stand on. And then that's really going to be what takes you through the remainder of your career. So it's very hands-on basics education, and then taking you into the patterns. I don't know. Danielle, is that probably pretty good?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Okay. There we go.
Awesome. Well, if you guys need anything else, you have the numbers to contact support. And we really are looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Be there or be square. Happy Cinco de Mayo. And see you tomorrow.
All right, gang. Be good to each other. See you tomorrow.
Bye.